What's up, people? Today we're going to learn the fight between the king and 2 pawns and the fight between the king and 3 passed pawns. Okay, first we're going to start with 2 very separate passed pawns. In this case there are 3 squares between the 2 black pawns. The 2 white pawns we're going to put so much focus in this one because this is just blockaded. If black goes to capture one of these pawns, this pawn can promote, but the pawn for itself cannot advance. So this is like a blockade situation, but black is not in that one. Black can move his king the times that he wants, so we are just going to put the focus in with this king and these 2 pawns. Okay, this position is a draw because the white king cannot capture the pawns. For example, let's try to go for a one for this pawn. King d6, a5, king here. Now let's see that the white king have no time to capture this pawn. So for that reason, the white king cannot capture these 2 pawns, but the pawns cannot advance. For example, if white makes the 2 drawest moves are or king c6 or king c4. For example, king c4. Now if a5, king b5, and now white is in time to capture the pawn. Sorry, king c3. So for that reason, black cannot advance one pawn because then it's going to be easier for white to capture both of them. So black just should wait with the king on f6, and we are just going to wait with the king on c5, c4 or c6. There are the 3 squares, and for that reason this position is a draw. For example, if white have this pawn on f6 and the other pawn on h6, I want to this should be winning for white, because with the king on g8 the black king is in that one. Later we're going to see an example of this, but if the white pawns are on f6 and h6 and the black king is on g8, the position is winning for white. Okay, let's see another example here. Okay, this is similar. The pawns are in the 5th rank. Now, okay, it's the same. If we go to capture one of the pawns with white, now if we return, now the pawns still advancing, and as closer are the pawns to the promotion, it's easier to win. So here with white, let's try to make the same strategy as in the previous exercise, just white with king c3, but here black can play a4, king b4, e4, and now the white king have no time to reach the square. So this position is winning with both colors. With white we can wait here. Sorry, with both colors no. Black is winning, doesn't matter if white moves or if black moves. White is winning anyway. If we go for a pawn, this pawn comes, and if we just simply wait with the king, the pawns can advance. So if both pawns reach the 4th rank and there are 3 squares between them, so let's see that there is a square. If the pawns reach this square, the position is winning for black. So here we have no option of capture these pawns. And here is the same, of course. So okay, here is different because the pawns are in the 4th rank, last in the other position, but now they have 2 squares between them, not only 3. So there now the square doesn't work. But white, for example, let's see if white goes to capture a pawn. Now the other pawns will advance, of course, and now we game with king b3, and we are threatening king c4. So for example, d3, king c3, a4, king d3, e3, and we reach to stop the pawn. So that's the correct the way to win this endgame. First, attack one of these 2 pawns, and when the other one advances, game for this other pawn. So this endgame is winning for white. Doesn't matter if black moves, now it's easier. For example, here black advance a4, now king b4, taking the pawns. So this endgame is winning for white. Okay, this other one, now black have the square, because we always should make this square in our mind. Now the black pawns are in the 5th rank and there are 2 squares between them. So let's see if white try to capture the pawns. For example, king d3, here king c2, a2, king b2, d3, king a2, d2, and in this endgame black is winning if we go for a pawn. Let's see what happens if we just wait with, for example, king b2. He can play d3, king c3, a3, but now we can stop the pawns. So this endgame is winning for black. Okay, the one of the last examples. Here I really like this endgame with the 2 pawns with just 1 square in front of them. Here the position is a draw, but white should play accurate to hold that. The only draw with move for white here is king b1. Just waiting, because if you go for a pawn, the problem is that here this pawn advance and all the squares to game are covered. And if king takes, now no, sorry, this is a draw. Sorry. This is a draw. This is still being a draw. For example, king here, and if a2, king b2, and black have time to defend. But this is a draw, so white cannot make progress. For example, king c2, king f6. But we should take care to not king with king b1 to capture the pawn, because then here if king b1 c3 is coming, and now we haven't time to game to defend. So okay, with the pawns into the 4 rank, there are no huge troubles because we can. But I prefer, this is the most technical move, king b1. And now black is the only guy who can lose, because if he advances 1 pawn, king c2, taking this pawn and winning the game. So black should keep his 2 pawns far from his king, just moving the king, and this position is a draw. Okay, this is the last example here. White is completely lost because he can make nothing with the pawns, and if he moves the king to c2, this pawn advance, and if he moves the king to a2, this pawn advance. So this is the limit situation. Okay. Okay, now we are in a real game. Now we was the most common examples, and now we are in a real game. Okay, here is white turn. And I think that you should put this position over the board and try to think how you can win the game with white, using the fact of use the 2 passed pawns against the king. Here, of course, the only move to create 2 passed pawns is h6. c4 is fine too, is playable, but h6 just creating the 2 passed pawns is going to be unstoppable for his king. Now king f3 and king g3. Now we learn that these 2 pawns, if they are in the 5th rank, but there are just 2 squares between them, the square doesn't reach the last rank, so the position is winning for white, and white can take both pawns. So if the square doesn't reach the last rank, you can promote the pawns. And if there are only 2 squares between both pawns, white king is taking the pawns. So white is going to capture both pawns. For example, c5, king h4, e4, and now king g3 coming here and taking the pawn. So okay, this example was more or less easy. Here is white turn, and the player of the game play rook d2, who is a losing move here, or a5, pushing from behind, or rook a3, as with the idea of push from behind. Okay, this endgame is a draw too. Was enough for white to defend the position. Instead of that, he believed that he can hold the king's endgame, but after rook takes, king takes f4, great move, pawn capture, and now another great move, king d6, being closer to these pawns. Now we have these 2 pawns with 2 squares between them, but they reach the final rank with the square. So this time the square reached the final rank. So that means that the endgame is winning for black. a5, and white cannot stop the pawns. So okay, we saw 2 practical examples of the square, one with the pawns in the 4th rank and the other one with the pawns in the 5th rank. So let's see another one. Okay, I really like that, because this we have these 4 pawns who are very, very annoying, and black should defend that with the king and these 2 pawns, but it's hard to defend for black. So again, I recommend you to put this over the board and try to think how to defend the endgame. Okay, let's solve it. Black cannot make nothing with these pawns, of course. So okay, for example, d takes c5 should be the first move that we should calculate, but here white can play b6, and after c takes now a6, and these 2 pawns are so far, of course, so are going to promote. And now, for example, if c2 now we should promote with check to secure that this promotion is with check, and we have time to defend this pawn. And if c4 DLD, more or less the same happen. If here now we check and we check. Okay, d takes c5 doesn't work. Let's see just the king moves. For example, if king e8 just waiting here, this was played in the actual game. Here white can win with b6, king b7, b takes, and now c takes, and let's see that these 2 pawns, the square reaches the final rank, so white is winning. If king a7 here, b6 again, king b7 and b takes, and it's the same. These 2 pawns are going to reach the square. And if king c8 here, a6 is winning, followed by b6. So the only winning move was king b, sorry, the only drawish move was king b7. If b6 here, we can capture here. And if here we capture here, if c takes d6, c takes d6, and these 2 pawns cannot promote. And if a6, the key move, king a7, b6, king a6. And okay, we have 3 pawns, but all or together these pawns are double, so this position is a draw. And okay, and to end, we watch, of course, many examples of king against 2 pawns, but I'm going to show you another example of a king versus 3 pawns. How to stop 3 pawns with just a king. It's incredible, but in this position, white just have 2 pawns and black have 3 pawns, but it's completely winning for white. But we should make the correct move. Okay, let's see that the black king is in third one, so black cannot move his king, because if we move the king to f7, this pawn promotes, and if we move the king here, this pawn promotes. So the black king is in third one. Now, our only job is just capture these 3 pawns, and we can make that with the king, thanks to the third one against the black king, but there are only these 4 pieces exist over the board, the white king and the pawns, but with the white king with an accurate play, we can defend the position. Okay, put this position over the board or in the screen, try to think who is the correct move, because it's very, very important, and you should fix that in your mind. Okay, here the winning move is king b1. Just, of course, king b1 is not threatening nothing, we are going back, but the idea is that now black is forced to play. If the pawns here are in this square, for example, black can just lose tempos with king g7 and king g8, and could be enough to make the draw. But here black is forced to move the pawns because he cannot move the king, and let's see what happens. For example, if he moves this pawn, now the idea is that always we're going to place the king in front of the pawn who moves. If he moves a3, king a2. If he moves b3, king b2. And if he moves c3, king c2. Okay, let's still analyzing the move. Remember that the black king cannot move. So okay, king b1, a3. Now, king a2. Black again is forced to move. If he plays b3, king a3, and okay, he's going to lose all the pawns. So b3 have no sense. And if c3, now we have king b3. Again, placing here the king. If he moves 1 pawn, we capture. If he moves the other pawn, we capture the pawns. And just with 2 pawns is going to be easy to take them. So here e3 is more or less clear. So, and let's see if b3 is maybe easier. Just king b2 against both pawn moves. White is winning. And if you are with the black pieces, and for example your opponent makes a mistake here and he plays, for example, king c2, we should put this pawn in front of the king, for example, or a3 is winning too. Important to don't play b3, allowing king b2 is important, but just a3 or c3 is winning by black. So here king b1, great move, and if black advances one of his pawn is lost. Okay, I really like this example. It's very useful for your endgames. And now we're going to watch a real game. It was very hard to understand, of course. Okay, white have an extra knight, but the knight is more or less trapped, and it's not only that the knight is trapped, that if the knight moves, this pawn is going to fall, and black have 3 extra 3-pass pawns who are going to be very dangerous. But the black king is in +1. So black can just move these 3 pawns, because if the black king moves, now we can move the knight and the position is winning. So we are just going to put the focus into this part of the board, into only into the king side, the fight between the king and the pawns. If the king manages to stop the pawns and make black turn into +1, white is going to win the game. So for that reason, here the position is very hard, but the best move of the game was king h2. Let's try to understand the idea. For example, if f5 is clear, is as in the other position, now we play king g2, if g4, king g3, and that's the idea. f5 is simple to understand. Okay, for example, h4 cannot here king h3. Now we are forcing f5, because if f6, king g4, f5, king h3, and we are reaching the other position, so f5 is only move. And now look like black made his goal, but now I have one file to go back, king h2, g4, now king g2, and if f4 we can go back to king g1. If h3 here, important, king g3, f4, king h2, again we are in front of the pass pawn. And if f4 now, the best move, of course, king g1. I'm sure that you know this move. And if black plays advance one of the pawns, we are going to place the king in front. And so black is forced to move the king, and knight b4 is winning. John Nan, who was playing the game, played instead of that king f2, king f3, and the game ended in a draw. But okay, I hope that you learned this concept of how to defend pawns with only a king. So see you in the next video of Endgame Masterclasses. Bye bye.